There's what the media shows you about crime, and then there's what's really happening. On this Dr. Phil podcast, I'm joined by New York City Mayor Eric Adams and his Deputy Mayor for Public Safety, Kaz Daughtry. Two men who say they're cleaning up a city that had been drowning in chaos. They're pulling thousands of illegal weapons and vehicles off the street, and I mean thousands, while a broken system puts offenders right back on the streets. And we're not just talking crime, we're talking hate, because antisemitism is exploding across this nation, and New York City is no exception because it is the home for the largest Jewish population outside the country of Israel. And it's not just online, it's on the streets, it's in the schools, and what used to be elite university campuses. Today, we're cutting through the noise. No spin, no sugarcoating, just the facts. What's working, what's broken, and what happens next. This is really important because it sets a model for every city across this nation. Make sure to follow and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We appreciate how many of you are listening and are making this podcast so very successful. Thank you for your support, and tell your friends to click subscribe and join us every time we talk about things that matter to people who care. Let's get started.
We were a symphony playing from different sheets of music, and I needed a maestro.
He just called you a maestro.
Yes, I would never go against what the mayor says. We have removed over 20,000 guns off the streets.
This is Gotham, and we have to be Batman.
If this was undertaken in every city in the United States across the country, this would have a profound effect on public safety in America. Do you ever wonder what it really takes to keep a city like New York safe? 9 million people, an economy bigger than most countries, and right now, waves of crime, unrest, and hate? Well, tonight I sit down with New York City Mayor Eric Adams, a former police officer who patrolled the New York City subway system alone during the crack epidemic, and his deputy mayor for Public Safety, Kaz Daughtry, a straight-talking street commander who's helped pull over 90,000 ghost cars and more than 20,000 illegal guns off the street. We're talking about juvenile gangs, illegal immigrants committing violent crimes, and a justice system that puts criminals back on the street before the arrest report ink is even dry. And we'll go deeper into something so dangerous and just as widespread: the disturbing rise in anti-Semitism. From attacks on Jewish New Yorkers to pro-Hamas rallies at what used to be elite learning institutions, our top universities, this hate isn't hiding anymore. Tonight, we're pulling back the curtain on the chaos and the people fighting to stop it. Thank you for sitting down with me. I've got some questions that I think people are really interested in right now because New York City is approaching 9 million people in population. That's a few.
Yes.
And I think one of the things that we're seeing in America right now is New York City is the city. I mean, it's the example for the rest of the country, and managing a city, being the CEO of a city of close to 9 million people is highly complex. Fair statement?
No, without a doubt. And I think that the mere fact that you have done a series of conversations around New York is important because it highlights the problems we have here are similar to the problems even our small towns are having and our big cities are having. Those complexities are actualized here in New York City. And if we can find the solutions here, they're often duplicated in other cities we see over and over again.
Yeah, what's the size of the economy here?
Think about it for a moment. $115 billion budget. $115 billion. The number of agencies, the delivery of services, protecting our ports, making sure that we continue to revitalize our economy with all the complexities. You have people coming from all over the globe to come to New York, but it is a huge economy. And I looked at a documentary the other day called Drop Dead New York. It was the office of mayor during the Beam years. This was the mayor almost 5-6 mayors ago. And in the documentary, the city was about to go bankrupt, and they were not going to get a bailout from Washington. And I believe it was the chancellor of Germany said, if New York City goes bankrupt, the American dollar go kaput.
I can imagine.
Right.
You're a cop. I mean, you spent 22 years as a beat cop, right?
Yes.
And where were you on the streets?
A combination. I started out in the transit bureau. We were dealing with real crime during those days. People go back and look at them. Graffiti was everywhere. It was during the crack epidemic, a lot of violence. People did not want to be on the subway system. And I used to ride those trains. Not only did I ride them, back then you rode alone. You were by yourself. You had a radio that did not work. The way we would get the attention of another police officer when we needed help, we would throw our nightsticks on the platform, and it made a unique sound that people knew you were struggling or fighting with someone. It was a challenging time. And so after serving in the transit police, then under Bill Bratton, Commissioner Bratton, he brought all the agencies together, and we started to use real-time technology to go after crime. I was a computer analysis at that time. I got promoted to sergeant, went back into the streets, and continued to go back after getting promoted lieutenant and then a captain.
How old were you when you first started on the street?
24 years old.
What did your mother think about you doing that?
She said, boy, well, you better go do something safer.
Yeah. What's your number one priority for New York?
Public safety. That's the prerequisite to prosperity. It builds the foundation that everyone can build on. Commissioner Bratton was clear on that back when he revolutionized our law enforcement agencies by using something called CompStat. He knew that that was the economic stimulus package. If you are safe, your children can go to school, you can go to work, businesses will come here, tourism will come here. We knew you had to be safe, and we were fighting that against those lawmakers who were getting in the way of the tools that police officers need to keep our cities safe. And that is the hidden hand to preventing the safety that the entire country would like to experience.
Should that be the, or at least a top priority for cities across the country?
Without a doubt. And you have
large or small?
Large and small, because it's the same thing. When I speak to my mayors across the country, the complaints are the same. When you look at even some of our small towns or our mid-sized cities, you're seeing that crime drives despair. Crime impacts how people feel, and crime impacts who's going to invest in your city. And you look at the cities, you see similar problems: overproliferation of guns, revolving door criminal justice system, and some of the same laws are being used throughout the entire country that is hurting public safety. We moved away from focusing on innocent people to moving towards how do you protect those who are creating violence on innocent people. We need to refocus. Our focus is the working class, mom and pop, should not be a victim of a crime, particularly by repeated offenders.
So it flipped, where it was focusing on protecting innocent people, and the priorities flipped to protecting the rights of the criminal.
Exactly. And you're seeing that all over the country. And even when you look at when someone is a victim of a crime, if you were to look at our victim compensation, you're the breadwinner in your home, you're the victim of a homicide, you die, that family is left. And so I believe that we need to look at those primary breadwinners who are the victims of homicide, victim of severe criminality. We need to stabilize them until either they can get back on their feet or the families could get on their feet. Paying for the funeral is not enough. There are a great deal of families who have lost their homes, who have gone into homelessness, who have witnessed their entire lives disrupted because of the act of a criminal. But we do everything possible for those who committed the crime. That is a upside down system of justice that I just don't support.
For the first time in over 25 years, you've created a deputy mayor for public safety and pulled Kaz Daughtry, who was deputy commissioner of operations, from NYPD to be deputy mayor of public safety. And that's in keeping with your commitment to public safety being a number one priority.
Because here's what I saw, not only from my days in the police department, but also my days as a state senator and as the county executive of Brooklyn, one of the largest, if it was a separate city, it would be considered the fourth largest city in America, just that borough of Brooklyn. What I saw was the disjointedness of our public safety apparatus, and there was a great deal of conflict. We were a symphony that we were playing from different sheets of music. And I needed a maestro. I needed someone to coordinate the entire effort and build that team with one mission. How do we keep the people of our city safe? How do we train together? We built a law enforcement academy. How do we utilize our resources together? And how do we learn from each other? And I needed someone that had the street knowledge, his number of arrests he has made throughout the years, but also the everyday common sense. His drone development, what he's doing around coordination. How do you just implement resources properly and not be afraid of failure? That's one of the problems. We looked into technology to identify if someone is carrying a gun. People mocked us. They said how they thought it was ridiculous. Now we just saw in another city that same technology was to identify guns that were being carried into a school. So we are focused on ignoring the noise and doing what's best for New Yorkers to keep them safe.
He just called you a maestro. You're a maestro?
Yes. I would never go against what the mayor says. No, the mayor, to double down what the mayor says, making sure we keep all the public safety agencies operating on one sheet of music, one song, and that's the song that the mayor sings. So,
I met you when you were NYPD
mm-hmm.
and spending a lot of time on the street, a lot of time with the officers, and actually, working cases on the street, building cases. So, a cop through and through. And now you're coordinating public safety, and this has coincided with an uptick in illegal immigrants coming in and committing crimes. And that's not the only crime that's here, and I don't mean to single them out, but the fact is we have had a lot of illegal immigrant crime across the nation. And it's not a high percentage of the illegal immigrants, but it is a significant addition to crime that's happening in some of the larger cities. Fair statement? This episode is brought to you by masa chips. For decades, chips were fried in tallow until big corporations switched to cheap seed oils. Now, seed oils make up 20% of the average American's daily calories, linked to inflammation and metabolic issues. Masa is bringing back the good stuff with 3 simple ingredients: organic nixtamalized corn, sea salt, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow. No seed oils, no junk, just a crunchy, sturdy chip that won't break in your guac. Masa Chips is beloved by tens of thousands of customers and has been endorsed by industry-leading health and nutrition experts like Ben Greenfield and Gary Brecka. Ready to give masa a try? Go to masachips.com/merit and use code MERIT for 25% off your first order. That's masachips.com/merit and code MERIT for 25% off your first order. We have had a lot of illegal immigrant crime across the nation, and it's not a high percentage of the illegal immigrants, but it is a significant addition to crime that's happening in some of the larger cities. Fair statement?
That is a fair statement. However, the police department doesn't ask anyone's immigration status. So we're not allowed to. That goes against the sanctuary city laws here in New York City. So how do we track that? Well, we don't really. When a person that is whether it be a migrant, asylum seeker, somebody that's not from this country, when on the arrest report, there's an option there where they ask, "What is your address?" And we can use the address to find out if they're at one of the shelters when they get arrested. So I think there was over 3,000 or 3,500 crimes that were committed by asylum seekers at those addresses for those shelters. And you mentioned before, Dr. Phil, when we talked about moped robberies, we talked about scooter robberies. We have identified, I think it was in 2022, right? 2022, there was hundreds of patterns. What is a pattern? Two or more of the same exact crime, right? Hundreds of patterns where individual was using mopeds and scooters to facilitate robberies throughout the street. And when we apprehended those individuals and closed down some of these patterns, a lot of them came back, their addresses that they came back to shelters in New York City. So that gave us an idea that they are migrants. However, we're not allowed to ask what their immigration status is. And when we started to really, the mayor gave a directive to us. And when I was in the police department, I never forget it, where he told me, the chief of department, listen, you guys got to get a handle on this. Too many New Yorkers are being victimized by individuals on scooters. What's the plan? What are we doing? Chief Shell, myself, and the team, Chief Kenny, put together an aggressive plan to go after these scooters, dirt bikes, ATVs, and ghost cars. And so far, since the inception of that plan, we have removed over 95,000 of them in this city.
95,000.
Correct.
Okay, define ghost car.
A ghost vehicle is basically a vehicle that has a paper plate. They don't want to be detected. They will go on the internet. You can print out a fake license plate, put your information in the vehicle that you're driving that you want that plate to correspond to, and comes back to a fictitious address, comes back to a plate not on file. And those basically, they're trying to avoid detection. And we started to see a lot of these ghost vehicles used in commission of crimes. What do I mean by that? Homicides, shootings, burglaries. There was one pattern which caught my eye was where there was a Dodge Durango, white Dodge Durango. It was over 38 patterns, 38 times where they were basically going into cutting the locks in the grocery stores or bodegas and literally taking out the whole ATM machine. No plate came back not on file. We had that plate. I remember looking at pictures of the license plate of that vehicle. When we ran the license plate, it didn't come back on file. But through the technology, from this mayor, because he's a techie, where we're able to utilize technology throughout the city, which is the license plate readers and other technologies that we DOT cameras, LPRs for the cars. We were seeing that same fake license plate was on this Dodge Durango, and then every Thursday or Wednesday they would print up a new plate and put it on that vehicle to avoid detection. Eventually, we put together an apprehension plan to apprehend this individual. We were able to shut down some of these patterns, but that is a perfect example of vehicles that are used in commission of a crime and don't want to be detected.
That's a whole city of vehicles that you've taken off the streets here. That's got to put a huge dent in crime. If you've taken 90,000 criminal vehicles off the street, and you got to assume most of those are involved in criminal acts.
And that is what the deputy mayor did even when he was deputy commissioner of operations, is to zero in. We saw a pattern of these illegal dirt bikes, cars, and other vehicles. They were being used for robberies. They were easily able to maneuver around or elude police because they would drive on the sidewalks. They would go across lanes. And so when we zeroed in on them and had a real apprehension plan, you started to see the patterns decrease. You started to see less incidents, people who were struck. Because when we talk about public safety, we're not only talking about those who commit robberies and assaults. We're talking about those who are the victims of being struck by an illegal scooter, no insurance, many cases, no license plates, and they were just really creating havoc in our city. And we zeroed in on it, and you saw the impact.
Why isn't that talked about more in the city?
Because you don't really see it. I remember 2 years ago, Mayor, if I remember this, where he got us on the phone on a Sunday. There's no days off working for this man. Let me just tell you right now. But that is the God honest truth. And I remember I was at the beach, and he got us on the phone, and we played the video where he showed us his video where there was, I think, over 500 ATVs, dirt bikes, and scooters. Remember we came across the Cross Bay Bridge, and then they went down to the boardwalk, and then you just kept seeing these these bikes, motorcycles, dirt bikes, and scooters. And he says, this is not a reflection of New York City. This cannot happen. I mean, the complaints that we got from the elected officials, the complaints that we got from the beachgoers on the beach, where you had over 500 dirt bikes, ATVs, and scooters zipping up and down the boardwalk, inconveniencing families, terrorizing the boardwalk over there. And that's, from looking at that video and then seeing other videos on social media of these dirt bikes, ATVs, and scooters zipping up and down Fifth Avenue, zipping up and down 125th Street, on 2nd Avenue. It was out of control. And he said to the team, you guys got to fix this. He's like, this is unacceptable. This does not reflect New York. And I think one incident where they surrounded a vehicle in Manhattan on 125th Street. Remember that? Where the guy, they basically maimed this driver, took him out the car, beat him to a pulp. And, after watching these videos, Chief Shell, myself, and the team, Chief Kenny, we put together a comprehensive plan with the community response team, along with the other neighborhood safety coordination officers, and a real robust plan to go after these individuals. And we aggressively went after them. And you don't see that anymore in New York City. You don't see those large groups of ATVs zipping across the bridges and zipping in and weaving in and out of traffic. You may see some of them, but you don't see, they're not as prolific as they were before back here in the city. And that's what the mayor, he don't understand. These conversations happen sometimes in the middle of the night where he sees a video, he'll get us all on the phone. And the next, when he hangs up, then now we're all awake, Chief Shell, myself, Chief Kenny, and we're like, what are we gonna do? And literally working on a plan. It could be sometimes 12 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning. That's how it is working for this man.
You've heard me talk about Jace Medical. If not, listen up, because they're doing incredible work in medical preparedness. And today, I've got 2 major updates to share. First up, the ivermectin use case. You've probably seen the headlines calling it a wonder drug. The scientist who discovered it even won a Nobel Prize, and now Jace is offering a 30-day supply at the best price you'll find anywhere. Next, the upgraded Jace case, an emergency supply of antibiotics delivered to your door. They've doubled the number of medications to 10 at just $20 more. And now, the most comprehensive and affordable kit available. Get it before you need it. Don't wait, order today. Visit jace.com and use code PHIL at checkout for a special discount. That's JASE.com, code PHIL. Guns have been taken off the street as well.
Yep.
How many guns have you pulled off the street?
Since his administration started, this administration here, we have removed over 20,000 guns off the streets.
90,000 ghost vehicles and 20,000 guns.
Yep.
Why isn't this a screamer headline in the newspapers here? Why doesn't the average New Yorker know about this? And why doesn't every city in the United States know about this? These are initiatives that are being undertaken that if this was undertaken in every city in the United States across the country, this would have a profound effect on public safety in America.
No, well said. And, that is why, what you're doing and going into the crevices of these stories, it's extremely important, because it's unfortunate, just being real transparent and honest, we have a great deal of those who just thought we would fail. They thought we couldn't come in with a pro-law enforcement, pro-business, pro-family agenda and execute it. And we did. Our economy, we have more jobs in New York than the history of the city. We broke the record 11 times. Bond raters have increased our bonds. We have been able to drop unemployment This quarter, every 3 months is a quarter. This quarter, we have the lowest number of shootings in recorded history, the last quarter, first quarter of this year. When you look at what we accomplished, this city was a city that we have a far left media, and we had a history of anyone running on a public safety agenda in a Democratic primary was difficult to win. But I was very clear. I was going to speak to working class people and tell them you deserve to be safe, and we will implement programs to make you safe, regardless of what lawmakers were doing that was harming innocent people.
Well, but you're a Democratic mayor.
Yes. And the Democratic Party is very interesting. You have those who are very moderate. I'm a pragmatic progressive. I believe in providing opportunities for people. But during the primary, you have an overwhelming number of far left who decide who's the candidate for the primary. And by the time you get to the general election, it is right size that you get a cross-section of Democrats. So I'm still a Democrat, running on the independent line as a Democrat, but I do not subscribe to defunding police departments. I do not subscribe to those laws that allow people to continue to return to our street after committing violence. I don't subscribe to being anti-business. I have a very clear philosophy that works on working class people.
Do the police, street cops know the mayor's got their back?
1,000%. I actually met with the union a couple of weeks ago. They really appreciate the support that this administration gives to the officers. And his support is overwhelming for them, and they have acknowledged that.
And having their backs is, number one, giving them the tools to do their job, allowing them to do their job without the executive office criticizing them when they take actions. And then third, giving them the salary they deserve. We passed a fair contract that got 98% of their members to ratify that contract, and understanding that even some of the wrongs that were done to them in the past, such as union benefits, something called Tier 6, Albany took away their union benefits. So we did the right things, because you can't tell someone and lead them into battle or send them into battle and you do not lead from the front. I'm their general no matter what, and I'm going to lead from the front.
Keeping with public safety, let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
This young man right here is attacking a police officer on Times Square, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
This is on one day of the week, and this is the same individual, I believe, the following day. I believe it's the following day, depending on hours and midnight and all. It could be 2 days, but I believe it's the following day. Same individual.
Right.
Correct?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Now, how in a city that is committed to public safety is this individual attacking a police officer on one day and is out the next day shoplifting?
Yes, right.
The following day. Well, how the hell does that happen?
I think that's important, because I don't want your viewers to believe he was just in the store walking through. No, he was shoplifting.
No, this is a freeze frame from a video. I can play the video.
Mm-hmm.
They've got him on video just walking by and grabbing some stuff and walking out the front door.
Yeah, and that's probably about 2 blocks from where the incident initially happened, that viral video that everybody saw where they were attacking the police officers. What do you think that says to the police officers that were attacked? Those rookie officers, the next day, they're back out hanging out in the same exact spot where they attacked those officers at. How do you think those officers feel, number one? Number two, these individuals, I understand they're juveniles, but I think that individual has been arrested 12 times, I think 8 of them for robbery. So at what point do we say we cannot rehabilitate this individual? At what point do we say, listen, there has to be some sort of serious consequences? And I've been talking to the DA's office about this once a week in regards to this case. We'll let the process play out, but there has to be some serious accountability. We cannot have individuals, no matter how old you are, going out and attacking our police officers.
Well, look, one of the fundamental principles of psychology, one of the most core fundamental principles, if you go to school and you take Psychology 101, don't reward bad behavior.
Right.
You hold people accountable. There are no consequences.
Right, exactly.
If they've been arrested 8 times for robbery, burglary, shoplifting, assault, attack, whatever, and I don't care if they're 15, 16, 17, whatever, and there are no consequences. If they're out on the street before the ink's dry on the arrest report, it does send the message to the police officer, what's the point?
Right.
Yep. And those officers are extremely upset. And then, I spoke with them. I told them, listen, we have to have faith in the process. But you also forgot to mention that group. They're called Los Diablos de la 42, Little Devils of 42nd Street. They're offset of the TDA group, which is Tren de Aragua. That same group was involved in last year, citywide pattern number 101. 23 hits, 23 victims, 23 souls that these 12 to 15 individuals circle around their victim, wolves, like a wolf pack, like wolves hunting, going out to hunt, and forcibly taking property from them. 6 in Central Park, 8 on this subway, and 11 on the street. There needs to be some serious consequences for those individuals.
Okay, so where's the breakdown? Who's dropping the ball here? Because when we look at the wolf pack, and I've seen the videos of them in Central Park, where 8, 9 of them come up behind an individual and just encircle them like wolves around a sheep. And they take their bicycles, they take their coats, they take whatever. I've seen them on the subway.
Yep.
I saw a video of them stabbing a kid in the back for his bicycle.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're looking at a video of them accosting a young man on the subway, taking his jacket. There are like 7 or 8 of these thugs. And I think those that attacked the officers down around Times Square, I think they arrested.
And so far, I think we have 8 of them. 8 out of 11.
8 out of 11 of them.
Mm-hmm.
They're not only out the next day, they're committing crime again the next day.
Right.
Where's the breakdown?
Our policymakers, many people don't understand in all of our cities and states, the criminal justice system is made up of several parts. We know the role of the police, but you also have the judiciary and you have the legislative aspect of it and the prosecutors. All those pieces must work together. If not, you'll have the police basically being a body that is catching the downstream mindset instead of the upstream mindset. And so we need our lawmakers to make sure the laws are strong. It sends a clear message that we don't award bad behavior. They're not currently, both on the state level and on the city level. We need our judges to make the determination if a person is dangerous and a repeated offender so we don't put back in our streets. And then we need the prosecutors to make sure we strongly prosecute the case. We have been collaborating with our prosecutors. We've gone back to our state lawmakers to change some of the laws. We have been successful on, but there's more to do so we don't feed the feeling that there is no punitive action that comes from an improper action.
Take your mayor hat off for a minute and just talk to me as Eric Adams, former cop. How do you feel when you see these gangs attacking police officers?
Extremely angry, because that uniform is more than a piece of garment. It is the symbol of our safety. And when you attack the uniform openly, as you saw in that video and under other circumstances, you are not only attacking the person who's wearing that uniform, but you're attacking our symbol of public safety. And we could never allow that to happen because that would collapse our entire safety apparatus.
You've worn that uniform.
Yes.
You've been attacked in that uniform.
Yes.
And you see these officers attacked. Are you letting them down?
No, my job is to give them the resources, give them the support, and continue to lead from the front to call for the changes in both our judiciary and in our legislative body. That is what I must do as the mayor. I must be the general that won't send them into battle, but to lead them into battle. And I do that. That's what good generals do.
If they're under attack, you green light getting them help. You don't leave them hanging out there, either one of you. They know if they're in trouble, they send up a flare and they get help.
Yep, that's correct.
This is Gotham. We have to be Batman.
Yeah. How bad is anti-Semitism in New York City?
Real issue. And I think that, we have the largest Jewish population outside of Israel is in New York. And when you see the rise, particularly after October 7th, there was a substantial increase of swastikas, of assaults, and other aspects of anti-Semitism. And we wanted to be clear that when you have the Jewish population in this city, they make up 10% of the population. Yet last year, there were 51% of the complaints of hate crimes. This quarter alone, that same 10%, they comprise over 61% of the hate crimes. It's not acceptable. And that's why we lean into it, no matter what group it would have been. We lean into and started an Office of Anti-Semitism to prevent anti-Semitism, to go after not only the crimes, but what are the feeders to the behavior that creates anti-Semitism.
Because this is the city with the largest Jewish population outside of Israel, so obviously the largest population in America, as you say, if you solve the problem here, and I don't mean make it go away, because this is something you manage, you don't cure, then it can become a template for the rest of the country. But it is a hotbed. Columbia University, they occupied the library.
Yep.
You can't go on the campuses unless you're invited, unless there is a emergency or a violent felony committed.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be invited on the campus, is that right?
Yes. That's so important because there's a level of frustration that people say, well, why don't you just go in and stop the actions that we are seeing take place on many of our campuses, particularly our Ivy League schools. But we can't. We can't break the law to enforce the law. If there are exigent circumstances or life-threatening circumstances, we're allowed to override the permission and authorization to come on. But if it's just protests or someone is doing something like taking over a building, we cannot go on without the permission of the school officials. And we call and we strongly urge them to give us the permission. We saw the last time they gave it more willingly than what we saw in the past. In the past, it took days, if not weeks, to get that authorization, and it spiraled out of control.
Well, acting president of Columbia, there's an acting president there now, requested assistance or gave permission promptly this last time, right? They were occupying the library, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so you went in and cleared the library, is that right?
Yeah, and kudos to the acting president. She was extremely forthcoming this time, and she requested the assistance of the police department. She wrote a letter detailing exactly what she wanted the police department to do. And when they took over that library, I remember showing up on the scene about an hour after that. And as I was walking down to where the operations center was at, I walked by a bunch of Jewish students that was in the corner. Some of them recognized me from television, and they seen that my jacket, it says New York City Deputy Mayor for Public Safety. And they yelled for me to walk over. I walked over, and then one of the girls was screaming at the top of her lungs, saying, "What is the city doing to protect me? This is not right. We have finals. Please help us." And this is exactly why the mayor, created that Office of Anti-Semitism. For those students that are afraid to walk to class, for those students that are afraid to go to the library and feel like they're going to be accosted or being called a name because of because they're Jewish, and seeing the pain on that lady's face, the student's face, and also there was a couple of male students too. This is exactly why that office was created for students like that. Students all over. Look, these seen the pictures inside of there. They're not coming there to study for an exam.
Were there arrests made?
There were several arrests made. And out of those, I think there was a total of 77 or 80 arrests. And out of it was 80 arrests. Out of the 80 arrests, 3 of them, they were outside agitators. They didn't go to the school. The rest of them were key card holders.
Will they be back?
You have to believe they would do something else in the city because the laws are not strong enough to send a clear and loud message. You know, even when you see large protests, when they become disorderly, they're giving summonses and they're out the next day. And so we have to remain vigilant and persistent that we're going to take action whenever we can and not make excuses from it. And that's what we have done.
You believe this is a place to start a small business. This is a place to have a small business. This is a place people should come.
Yes. This is a place what we have done for small businesses, support, services. I think it's no secret. We broke the record for the most jobs in our city, and then we broke it again over and over again, our own record 11 times. We have more jobs in New York in the history of the city. More small businesses are operating in the history of the city, put in place small business opportunity funds to help small businesses, took away various ways that small businesses were being fined and given citations to give them the help that they needed. Government must be there to help business. And we have an economy in New York that's quite different from other places. We have a day economy, normal office spaces that are up and operating. Then we have an afternoon economy, which is our industry of nightlife, restaurants, and others that feed $30 billion into our industry. Then we have an overnight economy. And that is why I wanted to be present in all of those different economies to make sure that people see their mayor knows about the days that people work, the afternoon and the overnight. We're out there seeing them.
You talk to mayors around the country, right?
Yes, I do all the time. And they have debates on which city is number 2 and number 3. Nobody debate on number 1. Number 1 is New York. We're the top city on the globe, definitely in the country. We're the economic engine for this entire country. But we don't see it as we're the king of the hill. We see it as we're all sharing this hill together. I operate well with my other mayors because we're all in this together. We want the same thing, a safe place to raise healthy children and family and fight for working class people.
That's why I think it's important to have these conversations.
Yes.
People do model after
Yes.
New York City. And I think this deputy mayor of public safety speaks well to what people should think about coming to New York City, but you got to have all the pieces of the puzzle in place. And putting these criminals back out on the street, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
But you just have to call for change.
Yes.
And
yes.
that's how you lead from the front. But we're going to keep telling this story because I think the country needs this example right now.
Thank you.
And it's not about politics. It's just about, common sense leadership and getting things done. So
I keep saying there is merit to having merit TV.
Mayor, thank you.
Sir.
Thank you so much, Kaz. I want to thank New York City Mayor Eric Adams and Deputy Mayor for Public Safety Kaz Daughtry for being here tonight. We heard what it really takes to lead a city in the right direction, controlling crime and hate, and from a system that too often protects the wrong people. Mayor Adams and Deputy Mayor Daughtry are turning the tide, and in many ways, they are succeeding. But this isn't just New York's battle, it's all of ours. If we don't wake up, if we don't start standing up and holding the right people accountable, we risk losing more than the battle for public safety. We risk losing our identity as Americans. We risk losing who we really are as Americans. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Hey, Dr. Phil here. My network, Merit TV, has it all.
Now, let me blow your mind.
Merit TV's got the news that matters.
The selection of a new pope.
Entertainment you crave.
Busted.
Everybody in a good mood today?
And live events.
Surprise.
What am I, chopped liver?
With serious punch.
Big shot.
Go to merittv.com and download the Merit TV app today.